Okay, welcome to our 75th session of our Wrath of the Immortals campaign. Tonight everyone's on Skype, so we have Jeremy online.
Yes, good evening all. I'm playing Dimitros, the Trellen wise man and knowledgeable, humble gentleman aiming to help out the party and thereby help out the world.
We then have Martin online.
Yes, I'm playing Trellen Silverleaf, a Path of the Kensai monk, and it looks like I'll be the focus of this session.
And potentially quite a few. Next person online is Grace.
I am Grace. I'm playing Little Miss, the Makai native of Orendi, who mostly started out in this adventure 75 episodes ago as for kicks on shore leave, and things have definitely run away with her a lot, and she's learned a lot about herself, and she's had to purge some evil magics along the way and rededicate herself to her god, and has realised that she's become wrapped up in something a lot more world-ending than she thought that she was involved in. So, yeah, she's still kind of finding new meaning at every turn.
Yep. And then we have Emrys as well.
Hi, I'm Emrys. I am playing Nasty Stump, turned Simply Red, turned Simply Crimson, turned Captain Crimson, turned Defender of the Universe and true hero of the party. My ego is also the size of a planet. I'm very excited for the second run around, and I'm hoping that this is not the one where I get murdered by Bradshaw, I think.
I'm sure Bradshaw would like to murder everyone. Okay, so the storyline has it that they had. Where did that go? I seem to have lost the map. Oh well. The characters had travelled to Ethengar to do a spirit quest for the Plowman, and while on that spirit quest, had been given various visions of the future. And in those visions, they had been given a way to alter the future to a way that they will not be penalized in some way or see most of the world die as far as they know it. And the first one they embarked upon sent them on their quest, and after that randomness seems to choose because they had interrupted the ritual before it was properly completed. Okay, so we come to the second iteration where the four of you are in the circle after completing what you think was Captain Crimson's actual quest.
Sorry, can we start again? Sorry, what you think?
What you think, yes.
We've got no reason
Do
to
you
doubt
have
it.
any memories of what happened in the previous session?
You do have memories of everything?
Okay.
You've got all your memories?
And the most recent memory is once again being in a fenced-off paddock in Ethengar with
Four other people.
Dragon saying, "Hold on here."
So in game, can I touch my skin and go, "Oh my god, I'm burnt, horribly scarred"? Oh wait, I was. Okay.
Very good.
Yep, you can go and do that, and you do see some actual scar burns on there.
Oh, I've got more.
Some fresh ones.
Excellent. Are they like texturable, or do they just red and pinky?
Red and pinky.
Oh, yay.
I guess, Burns negative 6 months old. Probably not not that scarred yet.
No, that's true. Can I turn quickly and just look at all the other characters in the party? And just say, look, I know that was a bit of a rough one, but I really appreciate everybody's help, and I would not have been able to achieve that without every single one of you.
Okay.
So thank you.
And you only see 5 other people there.
Who's missing?
You don't know. You can't remember.
Okay, can we do a bit of a roll call of who's here? Hi, I'm Captain Crimson.
Well, but
Are we guessing that the memory of that particular character has been excised from our memories?
that's right. I mean, we're looking around. We've got 5 people around holding on to the jewel, whatever it was that was the focus of the ritual.
Well, you've only got one person holding a piece of it, and that is Trellen. Everyone else does not have anything they're holding on to.
Okay, but I mean, like, I'll just use those the context of ritual just happening or just finished type stuff. Do we have expectations or memories that there were other people in this previously, or as Martin suggested, are we actually? We've got no reason to think that. Hang on, 5, yep, all here, all good.
You remember there were more, but you just can't remember them.
Okay.
I feel like we're missing some people, guys. Like, I don't know who, but I think there was that guy with the shoes.
Obviously not important.
I look at Russell with a questioning look.
He shrugs, saying ritual got disturbed. Random effects can happen.
Who?
He can't remember.
Do we have memories then of the fact that we had to go through this process 9 times, or are we now thinking we're going to go through it 5 times?
You believe you have to go through it 9 times, and you don't know who's some of them are for, but you do remember all the quests you're supposed to do, but not why.
Okay. Well, whatever the purpose is, if we go and save the elves this time, next time it might be different.
Do we need to save the elves?
Yes.
Technically, you don't need to do anything.
Yes.
Well, it depends on whether or not you want the world to end.
That's true. Martin, you're frozen, by the way.
Am I? Okay. Well, it's bound to happen.
Well, there's nothing we can do about it at the moment, so
We broke
we
it.
may as well. Nothing we can do about not remembering anyone at the moment. We know what we've got to be doing to get on, so
Yeah.
as Dimitri said, maybe things will be different next time round. So let's get through this time round and see what happens.
So who's holding it?
Trellen.
Alright. I guess we yield the floor.
So we need to find the nearest site of the gates to Alphatian.
Gates. So what now?
As in the Knight's Bridge Inn, or the Knight's River Inn, where it's got the multiple entrances to different locations, so...
Hang on. The what now? This is in character, by the way.
Yeah, the Ledrians...
You've done your done your Redrian's Bureau initiation course, haven't you?
My what now?
Her character skipped it.
I was hired by Raya, promised some gold, some adventure, came along on this quest, Raya disappeared, and Dimitri offered to pay my wages, so I'm still here, and suddenly it's become a lot more important than that.
And you're no longer getting paid.
I still don't know who this Redrian fellow is, and I've never met him.
Okay.
I'd like to think that I've got Little Miss kind of lined up for when I get some more ships.
Well, you want to be an admiral and have her as one of your captains?
I just think that anyone who tried to take her ship would just run away.
So, yeah, don't know anything about this Redrian fellow, so I don't know what you're talking about with an inn that has doors to other places. Don't know. There was something to do with the staff, though. I know he had a staff of some kind.
Like this?
Yeah, that one.
Well, I'll yield the floor.
I'm surprised that you have not had the experience of the Knight's River Inn as such, because I'm sure we all met up at the Knight's River Inn before we went to Glantry, and then we actually travelled through the gate through there. But you were probably drunk after the arrival, so that would explain it.
I do know a lot.
But yeah, so Trellen is referring to the fact that there are a number of locations around the previously known world that allow us rapid travel to places, and I think that there was actually one. Was there a night in Alfheim, or was you just very close to Alfheim?
It depends on when you.
What year
I believe
it is.
there is one in there. Yes, for this group there is at least.
I thought there was this. Okay. And I have a feeling that there wasn't one in Ethengar, but there was one just to the east of west of Ethengar. I'm trying to look up the thing again myself, but I can't remember it.
Well, this is exciting.
So, on the bright side,
If it's a ninth level, you're going to get fast travel.
if we do have the option, it means that we don't have to try and attain transport on flying ships that may or may not agree with certain people, and that people might react or interact with poorly. Unless, as I say, Dimitri will be looking towards Razul, the idea that he travel west out of Ethengar from here, I believe? Or do you have another lineup, another transportation lined up?
He had only planned for the trip to Alphatian.
Yeah. Which was certainly the biggest leg that needed to be out of the way, so actually not really near one. So I'm actually trying to look up now as to where the likelihood in closest one would be, but Dimitri certainly is aware. As I say, I'm pretty certain it was just to the. What was that?
That might help.
Okay, yes, that's what I was looking for myself.
That's where you want to get to.
Yeah, so we definitely got Alfheim. And yes, I'm guessing the closest thing would be Glantry.
Depends on if you want to go to Glantry City or Corriglan. Corriglan's actually closer because you have to go around mountains and through towns. Whereas on the map, So let me see. Glantry City's on the other side of that mountain range.
Yep.
Let's see. So
Yeah, exactly.
you are roughly about here, and so you want to go to Glantry City or Coraglain. They're roughly about the same.
Oh yes, I got those marked on here. Which,
That's where all those cities are marked.
yep. When I was looking at the list, I was thinking, yes, I know where Glantry is. I didn't know immediately where the other cities were.
So all of them expand out from Darokin City.
Yeah.
So everything is basically their next closest locations.
Yeah.
That's how they were chosen.
Understandable. And yeah, well, in that case, travelling down to Coraglain would be likely easier travel. Although it does involve going through broken lands, but I'm sure that the orcs and lesser races won't be a problem for us at that point in time.
I'm sure the rumours aren't true.
Lesser races.
I'm glad someone picked it up.
Could we, so we're still in this round, we're kind of discussing how to get there, right?
Yeah, you're still with it. You're still with. Go ahead.
Where would be the best place, the best Knightsbridge Inn to flick across to the Alphine?
So while they're doing that, I'm just wondering if there's... Are we right next to a place where I could buy some horses?
You have not left the area where the ritual was cast.
And did we have horses then, or we didn't?
Well, they're known for their horses, the Earthen Guard, but they're also known for being very possessive of them.
Okay, we can actually leave to part with any.
You can't actually see outside the circle at this stage.
Okay.
Okay, so I said that answers the question I was going to ask, whether or not how we're being treated by the Ethengarians right now, because yes, it's the mental note of possibly trying to remember exactly why we started in Ethengar might be slightly more clarity at the present time. So we've defined this for the present. So
Plowman is technically still there.
Okay, so he's...
Considering when I'm saying you see 5 people, you generally don't refer to yourself as one of the 5 you see.
Okay, right. Okay, happy with that. So, although I was also... Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. Yep. Well, in that case, then yes, I'm sure that Harman would be able to arrange horses, implementing to provide suitable recompense for such items. But yes, either way, I would suggest that we move along quickly.
Are we able to leave the circle?
Do you try?
Yes, I do.
Okay. As you leave the circle, there is a loud ripping sound.
Oh, great.
And you hear the sounds of the fair spring up around you, of horses and people crying and sad music playing kicks in.
Can I see what's going on? Like, can I see what the change is?
Everyone seems to be mourning.
Can I ask someone what happened?
Yeah. I mean, 6 months ago for you, but technically it was the...
yeah.
I guess the death of the princess and things like that. The fact that she died without naming or passing on her property and heirs is the whole catalyst that allowed the ritual to occur. But when Red leaves the circle,
Mhm.
and the ripping sound occurs, was that only something that Red noticed? Or
Everyone
the
knows.
whole curtain fell down at that point in time, effectively?
Yeah.
So,
And you see a jagged rip in the sky above the center of the circle.
I think was that supposed to happen?
yeah, so,
He looks at it and says, and shrugs, saying, "New to him, probably side effect. Didn't happen last time."
Is that a side effect we should worry about?
He nods.
Okay, so how do we fix it?
probably not one that can be repaired at this time. Hopefully we'll be able to repair it when we come back to 7th, 9th, 10th time.
He suggests that by solving each of the quests given, then we will be able to close it. But for everyone we don't solve and have to redo, it will get bigger.
Yeah.
Does that suggest that we haven't solved one we've tried?
He doesn't know. We'll find out if we have to redo it.
You must remember that whilst Razzle, somewhat an expert in this matter, is the expert because he's done it once before on a much smaller scale.
I thought he'd done it thousands of times.
No, he's been through the timelines thousands of times. He's not tried to fix it this way before.
And he's only cast it once before.
Yeah.
So while he may have gone through a loop many times, it took him about 1,000 times to fix the problem. He tried to come up with a way that didn't require thousands of iterations.
And but also which also then had the effect of previously he was the only person involved in the ritual. This time he's involved a lot of people all at once, so things are not quite the same.
Alright, well, I
Do the are the rest of the Ethegarians noticing the big rift in the sky?
Yes, people are pointing at it.
Well, they're coming to quiet about now. Yeah, and Dimitri suggests that yes, well, perhaps we should be moving along before they think about the rift and any potential associations with it of random people who are nearby.
So how far is the Knight's Bridge in?
Many days travel, because you also notice that besides Drazzle's horse and cart, all your horses are missing.
Okay,
Well, no, we got rewound in time.
But we didn't take the horses. There was only 2 mounts actually went through with us.
Yeah.
yeah, I would like to ask if anyone knows where our horses were, and if they can't give us an answer, where we could buy some.
They said you rode them north yesterday.
Right.
Have you lost
Can
them
we buy
already?
some more?
They asked if you've lost them already.
No, we've reallocated them to a different quest. Can we buy some more? And then I smile.
While Red is interacting with the Ethegarians, Dimitri's going to talk to Draxel and say, is it likely or deliberate that we may have lost a day of our ritual? Or the loop?
He doesn't know. He'll know on the next loop if it's another day has passed.
Yep.
It may be a something the gods have done to stop us interacting with ourselves again.
Yeah, that's right. So this is it. Dimitri's going to actually pick one of the posts or markers that were originally making the circle, and basically put a marker on it that he'll be able to then keep track of his own purposes of exactly how many have come through and the dates that it's happening. So.
Is that all? You take 2 at night? Regular? That's good.
And you hear from them that it is the 17th of the month when you did the ritual on the night of the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So you have literally lost a day.
Yep. And obviously, from the perspective of the Ethangarians, the recent tragic loss is definitely still smarting at this stage. So.
Well, culturally, it will take them a long time to get over.
Absolutely, yeah. So, okay. So I was interrupting Crimson's important negotiations as to whether or not he can come up with more horses.
Okay. As you talk to them about reallocating horses and stuff, most of them look at you saying, so where are the horses then? Because
I turn to them and say that it's complicated to understand with quantum mechanics and multiverse theorem, but essentially we are riding the other horses, but they are on a different path than us, and because we need to go on a separate path to the path that we're going on, I feel like we need to get different horses to go on the different path that's different to the path with the horses that's on a different path. And I just want to keep going and adding different until they kind of blur.
Okay, so as you're talking about field theory and quantum mechanics, they start correcting you.
Cool. So you know what I'm talking about. In that case, can I buy some horses? Smile.
That they say, but shouldn't, and then they start throwing more quantum mechanics at you, theorizing of how you could actually all ride the same horse at the same time.
Yep, and then I point out that they haven't considered Chekhov's theorem of matter disparity and reallocation.
Okay, so give me a intelligence roll where you add your intelligence bonus to the roll.
Can I just not? So what's 1 plus stuff do?
Did you roll a natural one?
I did.
Okay, so you start telling all these theories that have absolutely no actual theories, and they just look at you and going, just no, and turn around and walk away.
Can I turn to Dimitri and go, fine, you fix it, and I stomp off?
So, Dimitri will open with the idea that, yes, you're correct. Technically, we are riding the horses, and going through that process. However, that was yesterday, this is today. More horses are needed for those that need them.
And then I smile.
And you do see the sorrow on their face because you also have learnt from Plumman that most of these people consider their horses their family.
Yeah. And obviously, the other horses are not lost. They're just not at this location at this time. So, we have the other horses with us to the north. So, as you would fully understand, according to Shallop's theory.
Can I get back into it with a piece of paper and try and fold it to show them how the theories work?
Sure, give me another intelligence check.
Oh, that's better. That's like 18.
Okay, so explaining it with paper seemed to help, as you remember some of the actual correct wordings.
Yeah, like Shallop's or Chekhov's.
I'd like to point out that I don't remember shit, so that means that my log's back. So I'm very happy about that.
And after some arguments and interactions with him, they agree to sell you some of their horses that have aged out of breeding.
I say Dimitri's got the money, and then I smile.
Yes, the difference is Dimitri doesn't need a horse.
I repeat, Dimitri has the money, and I smile. Now, how much money do we have to give seriously though?
Okay, so for a horse, Where is my player's handbook? What's the rough price of a horse?
I know, originally it was 75, but that was first edition, so...
Has been a while.
It is 75 still.
Still 75, there you
For a
go.
riding horse. And a war horse is 400.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are offering you 100 gold for the old horses
Is that for all of them?
each.
Yeah, I'll pay 100 for mine.
I mean, the other thing, of course, is that, I don't know, because whilst Clavin probably got access to the gem, the rest of his herd probably to the north, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the ones you rode to the north.
Right, the first time. Yeah.
We only need to go to an inn, right? We don't need the horses after that, right?
And it's a couple
Yes,
of days away.
But we don't need the horses after that, do we?
Well, it'll be a bit of a walk from, or likely a walk from the Alphine located night with it in to the location we're going to get to. But yeah, it's the sort of thing that, yes, technically we don't need horses, they just speed the whole process.
My
we have that 6
question
months.
is, can the horses travel with us in the inn?
Yes, they can.
Right.
Yeah, the transportation system is one that allows, yeah.
Okay, so here's a question. Rather than trying to buy horses, why don't we hire some horses and a horse handler who can return the horses to Ethengar because they're Ethengarian once we're done with them? And we'll just pay a fee somewhere in between hiring and buying them.
But I've already named mine Percy.
It's certainly a fair option. Does Little Miss want to suggest that, hey, hiring rather than...
I'm suggesting this in character.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But obviously, I'm assuming she gets to go to the party.
Yeah.
Red responded with, hey, but I already like mine. I want to keep mine permanently. That's fine. That doesn't stop you and or other party members from hiring if they're willing to offer.
I'm going to ignore Red and just say to the Ethengarian, is this a proposal that would potentially be acceptable to you, that we hire said horses and one of your trusted Ethengarians to come along with us to ensure the safe return of the horses?
They point to Plum and saying he is a trusted Ethengarian, but they're not going to send.
But he will not be able to. He will not be able to bring them back by the same route.
They don't want to send anyone off at this stage as they're all in mourning, and will probably be in mourning for some time.
To give us the horses that have aged out of reproducing.
And plus it is...
so you're saying that they don't want to spare anybody who is mourning to come and escort the horses because the horses don't matter enough to them to do that, because the mourning is more important than the horses?
At this stage they are culturally grieving, and the only horses that they're willing to let go are ones that are willing to go.
So basically you're saying that they are quite prepared for these horses to never come back to them?
At this stage they are, yes.
Okay.
So they understand what it means to sell a horse to other races.
We're 9th level, paid 100 GP.
And considering hiring someone to travel 800 miles is quite a expensive proposition.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like, if they are willing to let go of the horses, then whatever.
That was the 100 gold for horses that are no longer contributing to their herd in that sense.
Demetrius seemed to reckon the idea that 100 is more than fair for them to go in speed, so he'll grab one.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So.
Well, actually, Little Miss is not fine with that. She will probably end up being dragged on a horse by climbing because she don't feel all that great about riding horses, which is nothing new. That's been pretty clear from day one that horses make her a little bit nervous because she ain't got a lot of experience with them, so if she tries to ride one on her own, she'll probably fall on her ass.
Dressel does have a cart, so you can sit next to Dressel.
Yeah, that might be a better option for her because she also has little legs, so trying to keep up with all the people on horses is going to be difficult too.
Plus, it's also more comfortable as it's a padded seat. Okay, so you've been told it is roughly 408 miles to get to Corriglane.
Sorry, 800 miles is the distance between Ethengar and Alfheim.
800 miles is the difference between Ethengar and Corriglane and coming back.
Oh, okay, no worries.
So 400 is the distance to their one way.
Yeah, cool.
Where is the adventuring page? There we are. I was looking at the movement. So, good movement is expected to be about 3 hexes a day on trails, or you could do 6 hexes a day if it's a bold road.
Yeah, I think that while we're in Ethengar, it should be a fairly well-made road. Going in the broken lanes might be it's still a trail, but exactly how good the trail is, we'll find out when we get there.
Well, the main road stops about 3 huts from the border, and then it becomes a trail.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, so, I believe that we should make it to Alfheim, even if we're walking, we'll make it to Alfheim a lot faster than we did get to Alphatian.
So while you guys plan what you're doing, I'm just going to duck to the bathroom.
Considering that, yes, the trip to Alfheim is probably no more than a couple of weeks. Whereas our first iteration to Alfheim, a couple of weeks, we barely got out of Ethengar at that point. So.
All right, I guess I'm all loaded up on Percy. I'm already working on Percy puns. You know, I perceive a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give you Percy. None of them are good, but this is what I'm doing while we're waiting.
So there's basically, yes, as soon as we get underway or in the preparation of things like that, has Trellen got a recap of reminder of what his vision was, exactly what we're getting ourselves in for, what the goal is?
Alright, so the main thing is we're on the lookout for a unicorn, and if the unicorn has already been killed by a beholder, then it's probably game over.
There's
Okay.
websites for that, you know.
What was that?
Nothing appropriate.
So do you have any more details exactly where in Alfheim you're likely to come across this unicorn and or beholder?
All I know is that there are trees of life and that they are dying, which implies there are Shadowlands issues, and that's probably about it.
And you said it's a beholder we need to stop.
Yep.
I turn to the party and I mention in a low voice, we have to be careful. They are truly terrible to behold.
Maybe you can speak to upper management for ideas.
Yep.
Well, yes, if there's a caster who is willing to do a 5th level spell, then that might help with contacting upper management.
If you go to the magic shop.
That's right. All we have to do is go to Galantry or Darokin or one of the other magic shops, and you can talk to the holder anytime you want.
He floats above the store the entire day.
Hopefully, well, I was going to say is, hopefully that's not the beholder that we're dealing with. But then admittedly, it's quite possible the sort of beholder we want, because I'm sure there's good item making stuff out of unicorns.
I'm sure there is too.
They can say, I make Emporium may well be out for the hunt for unicorns for their merchandise.
Plus, I'm sure Trees of Life make very good magical items when cut down. Okay. Do you try to pick up anything before you travel?
What would be the detour required to reach one of the magical emporiums?
No detour actually required, because technically once you get to Corriglane you can go to Darokin itself and go to the emporium there. Or go to Galantry and go to the emporium there, because it is actually in Galantry as well.
Alright.
But the only safe road for your group at this stage is down through the Broken Lands, because you have Plumman with you, who is an enemy of Galantry.
Okay.
And last time he didn't particularly appreciate Dimitri's technique of getting him through Galantry's lands most smoothly when we had to go up to Moldavia.
Okay.
And I cut out briefly for a moment there, but I'm assuming Martin was just saying the fact that yes, there's not actually a detour, because there's not actually a direct night movement between Corriglane and Alfheim. They always go through Darokin, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And if you go into Darokin anyway, you can stop by the magic shop.
That's right, yes. Stopping there for an evening would be suitable anyway.
And what sort of magic would be required to confirm whether this particular beholder is the one we're worried about?
Hard to tell, because you're not very good at telling beholders apart.
That's what I was worried about.
Are we aware of like an overarching beholder society type situation?
You have not researched beholders that much.
No, that's right. I wasn't expecting we would be. So,
and as aberrations, they're not well known by the general populace.
No, that's right. So realistically, we know that there are multiple beholders out there. We've got no real reason to think that they interact or working together. So the likelihood of a random beholder that we know that's running the magic shop being the one that's finding unicorns in Alfheim would be low.
Well, we could start with a form of question that would hopefully pinpoint the beholder that is killing the trees of life.
Okay, so the implication is that it's not the death of it's not the beholder killing the unicorn that's the problem, it's the fact that the beholder's the one killing it.
Yeah. It's a start killing of the unicorn by the beholder.
Right.
Yeah. So the trees of life are on the side, they're part of the background, but the key event is the unicorn being killed by a beholder. So
yeah. Alicia, yeah, certainly these sort of clarifications and discussions on exactly all the intricacies of the dream.
We can have a chat.
Dimitri will be aiming to talk to you during the travel to try and tease out every last detail and bit of information that you might pull off them.
Okay,
So,
I'll give Dimitri a insight roll.
Okay. Where am I? Insight. +6. 17.
Okay, from your upbringing with the Traldarian philosophies, Traldara culture is highly tied to foreseeing futures and possible futures.
Yep.
You do know that in some cases visions are metaphors instead of fact.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
And unicorn is a symbol of some of the gods, as is the beholder.
Okay.
It's me telling players that it can actually be more than one thing.
Yeah. And this is certainly where, as I said, Dimitri was aiming to get that conversation and ensure that he teased out every bit of information that Trellen saw in the vision to then allow
So the unicorn is a symbol rather than an actual unicorn.
He could be.
potentially.
So sometimes it's an actual unicorn, sometimes it's a symbol. It's the when following prophecy from the Traldaran beliefs is to always be careful that you don't focus on what the vision shows you, but what the vision's telling you.
And so from Dimitri's perspective, when he hears and understands those sort of details, does the or would the symbolism of the unicorn be commonly representative of a particular thing, and or unicorn and or beholder, or generically unicorn can often symbolise a purity type virtue?
Unicorns, from a Traldaran perspective, unicorns represent many things.
Yeah.
Including equivalent of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Whereas beholders represent many things, including a perversion of nature.
Okay.
So it's like a chaotic good and a lawful evil opposed,
Yeah.
but not necessarily an actual unicorn and an actual beholder.
Whereas
Not automatically.
unicorns also represent nature and forest, also represent the elven beliefs, and also represents Alphatian in itself.
Yeah.
Because the unicorn is on their coat of arms.
So I suspect it's going to be the appropriate option will be to get to Alphheim and see what we find there first of all, and we'll see if the elves of Alphheim are aware of attacks that are happening that we can attempt to prevent, or we'll hopefully find out more along the way. So,
Captain Razzle does interject at that point, saying that the bad magic points of Alfheim are portals for aberrations to appear from.
mm-hmm. Dimitri will also take the opportunity during the travel on a few nights to try and contact Yem and get his advice or guidance as to or his interpretation of what the vision might mean. He's working on the idea of, yep, I can hopefully risk some soul burn and penalties from the artifacts, because hopefully it will reset when I come back.
Okay. Picking up the gem and making a call on the first day's travel to the stop.
Well, it's probably going to be about after the first week or so, after he feels like he's got everything he can out of Trellen. He'll then go and contact things. So certainly yes. Depending on how you want to do this travel, I'm happy that it'll be a week or so before we first start to contact him. Because we said it was about 2 weeks to get to Corellan, wasn't it?
Okay, so getting roughly to where the thing popped up is. Sorry, clicking on things makes things go all over the place on me.
Yeah.
So getting down to roughly where this one is here takes you 2 days.
Oh, okay.
I'm just counting out hexes to see how far you can go.
Yep.
Because I'm just doing it roughly.
Yeah, that's how I'm more than happy.
But there will be some dice rolls for events.
Right, so I'm assuming that we're hopefully going to be fairly quiet through Ethengar. I suspect it might become more problematic going through the Broken Lands.
So everywhere where there are those like red crosses and stuff are bad things.
Yep.
And on the third day out, you go past one of them, but it doesn't trigger.
Okay.
And you'd have to stop there for the last one. For the I see. No, we don't have enough time to travel to the next one. Because they don't have water and food for animals spread everywhere. They've only got it at their stops. So if you skip too many stops, you end up with no food or supplies.
Yeah. As we get to this Baga, has there been much river traffic?
None. They don't allow river traffic in their region.
Right, yeah.
Most river traffic is actually done by halflings.
Yep, so we're just realising that, hang on, we're following a river. It might be faster going on a barge or something, but happy that we're travelling on horseback still for the present time. So
It would be faster until you got to the Broken Lands, at which point you'd be going over huge waterfalls.
Yeah.
Right.
While dodging arrows.
Well, at least you're a moving target.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that got you to there, 27. Trying to get all the days straight.
Exactly, yeah. Because that will become particularly important the umpteenth time we're going through.
So, considering you have purchased Ethengarian horses, you do get free food and lodging at each of their encampments.
Nice.
Which is part of the deal of it.
That's right. So,
And you do find out that if you take the horses to Coranglain and and sell them to one of the Ethengarians there, you'll generally get back half the money you paid.
yeah.
But they know not everyone can do that.
So, and admittedly,
That's still well out of my spot.
I suspect it would be preferable to hang on to the horses and take them into Alphheim. So,
Yeah. I might need to travel a bit.
as you said, as much as individuals might be very parsimonious with their cash, technically we have plenty of cash available for such purposes. So,
But you don't have it in this country. You got nowhere to cash most of that in. Unless you're carrying it in actual cash, you don't have a lot of it.
Well, Dimitri certainly carries a fair bit of cash because he's got the bag of holding to carry it in. So.
Okay, so it takes you 6 days to reach the end of the rest stops.
As in the end of the epic, like the just off on the something to the screen there, just
the edge of
about to go to the Broken Lands.
Yep, on the edge of the screen. That's the final stop.
Yep.
Takes you 6 days to get there.
Okay, yeah. So that's probably about the time coming into the Broken Lands type stuff, but eventually we'll take the opportunity to try and talk to Yem and see if you get clarification on what was going on and what we might expect and things like that. But,
Okay, so
If there's any interpretation that he's willing to offer.
okay, so you get in touch with Yem. Yem does point out that most prophecy-based visions are the domain of time, but from a purely intellectual perspective, he goes into about 20 different variations you hadn't thought of.
happy with that? Well, and this is where I call a private conversation, so therefore Dimitri will have thought of them, but they need to be talked about.
And they range from the fantastical to the mundane, to the equivalent of it may be two warring families, to warring cultures, to warring philosophies, to warring religions, and your head sort of spins a little bit at the possibilities of stuff, which is very much what the sphere of thought is all about.
Yeah. Based on... Go on.
And you do get the warning that from here on out, you are leaving the lands of Ethengar, and they warn you that the lands known as the Broken Lands have united under the Great Orc Chieftain Thar. And they call him Great because it's the first time the various tribes of the Broken Lands have united.
Uh-huh. Does this Great Thar have any, are we aware of any connection with the two princes that disappeared because they became affected by the Brotherhood of Blood?
Well, the missing princes basically made it possible for Thar to take command of the area.
So he's effectively, he's potentially a usurper from the previously recognised ruler or ruling family. Is that right? Obviously, I expect that happens regularly in Broken Lands.
The goblins had their line of succession, but their line of succession was broken due to what happened in Hollow World, and the orcs have risen up in prominence due to the confusion of succession.
Okay, yep.
And each of them have their own different areas of control. So you can see that listed up there is Yellow Orcia and the Marks. The Marks are known for their trolls, and Yellow Orcia for their orcs. Each region there has a different tribe that controls it, and Thar has united all those tribes. The goblins had encouraged interfighting between the tribes because it stopped them from controlling the goblins.
Yeah. Okay, so when we're talking about the Great Thars effectively control the orcs, is he effectively taking control of the entire area that's known as the Broken Lands, or is he effectively taking control of the entire area of Yellow Orcia?
He's taking control of all the Broken Lands, including the goblins, including the trolls. He's done the same thing that the Great Khan of Ethengar has done, and both of those things make everyone around them fearful, because it's something that has not happened in a long time since the one for the Great Khan, because they normally go rampaging and destroying countries around them. And the last time the orcs, goblins, and trolls were united, they went rampaging and ended up in the Broken Lands when they dissolved.
Yeah. So be prepared for interacting with these orcs. I would suggest that the best option, rather than trying to fight our way through, we might be to try and buy passage as much as possible, but...
Rumours are they do not negotiate at this stage. Which is why a lot of people are worried, because if he's not negotiating for passage, what does he want?
Yeah.
And someone who you can't tell what their motivations are is a scary thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, probably it's a lot harder to control or associate with. So. Are caravans still attempting to go through it all in this time? Or have they generally been traced and effectively cut off?
They have been cut off. There are the road itself is passable only by armed scouting groups, you would say. Anything more than that is confronted with a heavily armed force. And they do say that this outpost that you're resting in has been attacked a couple of times this year already.
Okay.
Normally they ride off backwards and come back and rebuild. It's easier than trying to fight off more numbers than they can shoot.
And obviously, yes, the numbers have been coming through. They've been much more organised and in greater numbers than would be common.
And it's more structured than the normal unstructured raids.
Yep.
Normally, if they were being raided, they'd be raided by just one group in a disorganized fashion. Easy to beat off, but multiple units moving in and using tactics are a lot harder to defeat.
Yep.
So,
just having a bit of a look through Dimitri's spell list and thinking, he hasn't really got anything that provides a mobile illusion or things like that could cover everyone. Yes, but the other one the other question I was going to ask before we talk about that when we're talking to Yem was, okay, and Yem did not provide any advice or suggestions as to the best place to start looking for the source of the unicorn and or beholder once we get to Elfheim.
He did not.
No.
You have a feeling that he wasn't permitted to.
Yep, that's right. I'll probably I'll try and talk to him again in a week or so type stuff, or like when we get to Darokin or something like that. But we'll see what's going to be on from there. So I'm guessing people can restock, resupply as they need to in this, like for all normal equipment. I would at this life travel stop.
Yeah, restock rations and stuff.
Do they have any like basic bolts and nuts and mechanical parts at all?
They have none of that sort of stuff here.
Oh well.
They have food and feed supplies for horses. They have water skins, and they have torches. But anything beyond that is beyond their stocking. Mainly because they say that they have not had any anyone come through since the thawing of winter, and it's the first time that they've not had anyone come through.
I'm assuming that the story of the events at the Great Ethengarian Khan meet, including the death of the princess, that word has preceded us. I'm assuming all the way.
It has.
Yeah.
They're all wearing dark colours, which you associate with their mourning.
Yeah.
Even the horses seem sad. Okay, so they do say that it's 2 days to the ford of the Striel River in the Marks.
Yep.
And then it's 2 days from there to you get near the ice peaks. And then roughly another day over past that before you're near the volcanoes. So you got quite a few days traveling through basically horrific territory as far as they're concerned because there's no grasslands.
Yeah.
Okay.
A killer's throne that's marked on there at the moment.
Yep.
That's not actually getting to the area where we were chasing the caravan before we went to the Hollow World, is it? That's still going to be further west?
Let's see. I'll bring up the Darokin one.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking my memory is that we were still in the central west of...
So you see this one above the L, the white area above the L, that was where you were going to.
Back where we ended up previously,
Yep.
Okay, so we're not expecting to go near that on this occasion, in that true sense. Happy with that. Certainly Dimitri will be aiming to get as much, if there's any recent maps or things like that that might have been available at the trading post, and or word of mouth, which we've just gone through and got that process. So.
Yep, so you're expected to pass through firstly Yellow Orchia, then the Monks, then Hobgobland, then down into South Nolistan, and then into Red Orkland before popping out into Orogland. Except Cole, I believe, is another is its own region as well, separated by the river.
And obviously, from what we understand, a lot of those traditional regions are probably somewhat null and void because the orcs have managed to subjugate everyone. So there might be a lot more mixing and interaction than would normally be the case. Okay. Does anyone in the party actually have a reasonable technique for trying to hide or conceal the entire party?
No, I've already had
just on my own.
I have.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah, I've got things that, I've got things like Alter Self, Blink, things that can help me.
Yeah.
But nothing that can conceal the entire party.
So, that's right. We shall.
I do have something that might come in handy for if we actually do have a literal beholder to deal with, though.
Yes.
Because they don't come from our plane, do they?
They technically do not, but then neither do any of the races anymore because they have outsider blood in them. Anyone with an elemental aspect has outsider blood.
But technically it's an aberration, so it's a bit...
Yeah, so if I was to cast Banishment on it...
You can cast Banishment on any creature, including a horse, a frog, a toad, and it will still work. But you have to concentrate to keep it banished.
That's right. The difference being, if you cast Banishment on something that's in its home plane right now, it just gets taken away for a while, and it'll come back again when the spell ends.
Yes.
If you do discuss that option with Dimitri at all during the travel, yes, this could be a useful thing to beholders. Dimitri will remind you. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think it can be helpful as far as setting up something if it tries to ambush us or whatnot.
Absolutely, that's right.
Again, we don't even know if we're dealing with a literal beholder here. But
no, that's right. That's right.
I just figured that seeing as none of us seem to really know a lot about them, it might be handy just to be able to use that if we need it.
Yeah, but Dimitri will remind you of the fact that in our current situation, remember, we're outsiders as well.
Yeah, but I'm not going to cuss on us.
Just because that's literally what happened to Dimitri in the battle in the Alphatians. He got banished.
Right.
So because we're in a different timeline, or no? The same timeline multiple times.
Though Dimitri would also know that banishment does work on everyone, and it's only permanent for non-natives if the concentration is maintained for a full minute. So you don't, if you lose concentration for any reason within that minute, even non-natives return to where they popped out.
Yeah.
That is the actual ruling of banishment.
Which is what happened to me during the battle. So,
You don't know if you would have been banished permanently.
that's right. But he's certainly suspecting that the risk was much greater than normal.
Okay. So, who's taking...
Although he calculated, at the time, he was calculating on a minute, and he was planning on being back again, and he suddenly got back again within a round.
So what is the party order while in the Broken Lands? And what is your watch?
I'm happy to take first watch each time, and I'll probably ride at the back, and kind of face backwards, because I'm little. I can flip around on my thing, with my thing and the thingy thing. You know.
I'm happy
Saddle.
to
That's the thing.
I would suggest that the normal marching order would in fact have Palmer at the front. And certainly would have been at the front, I expect, while going to Rethengar. But even now, I would think that it would be appropriate that he stays at the front. Whether or not we're happy to go that way when David's not here is a question. But I would be suggesting, and I also expect that because we're talking travel over many days, people will tend to shift and move up and down through the order quite at a random time. It's more a case of where we are at a moment in time if we get attacked.
Mm-hmm. We're just going for an everything unless...
I would think on average, Farman would be leading.
Is Dimitri before or after the cart?
So I was about to say, so the next one would be that whether or not Drazel, the cart certainly travels at the same place as horses normally, does it?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not like it's slower than the horses and therefore tends to naturally fall to the back?
It's not that much difference for you guys. You don't notice it being slower.
Yeah. Well, Dimitri would probably actually aim to be riding the horse beside the cart much of the time, depending upon how big the track is and things like that. Because that way he can be chatting as much as possible to Drazel. Because, as I say, unlike some other characters, Dimitri's quite happy to talk to Drazel.
You do know that there will be hard time doing it in the Broken Lands area. Before then it was fairly easy, but after that it's basically one cart wide, the track. So we've basically runners for the cart.
Yeah. So you probably potentially get two horses abreast if people really wanted to be chatting on the way, but it's mostly single file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt for a second. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom for a few minutes, so I'll mute my mic.
So would you in those cases would you travel behind or in front?
Well, I guess if we end up at times when it's single file, I'd be going Plarman.
We've got Plum
Trellen.
and
You're saying you won't go second?
Yep. You got Crimson at the end. And then the cart either before or after Dimitri.
And Little Miss Cart. So,
Yeah, Little Miss is on the cart.
Little Miss is on the cart, isn't she? That's right. Dimitri probably interchanged very often, but he's probably more convenient, but he'll probably lead the cart more often than not.
Okay, so put you down.
It's figuring that the dragon, the horse is under good control, so basically it's not a problem to have at the back.
Okay, so we normally have Captain Crimson take first watch, who takes second watch, and who takes third watch.
Well, I would be...
So I have a 4-hour trance, I don't know if that's...
It certainly means, yeah, you can effectively take double watches, or like 2 watches a night most times or something. But I would certainly be suggesting that if we're in the Broken Land, there are 2 people awake at all times. So,
which would probably help to have Trellen on first and third watch then.
Yeah.
On the idea that, like I say, you basically trank through the middle. Yep. And I would also suggest that generally speaking, it would be appropriate for the watchers to rotate, but Dimitri's more than happy to always take last watch, because that way it makes it easier to prepare spells and things like that in the morning. But yeah, there's also the element of, well, certainly speaking from experience, if you told a group of people that, yep, you're always on the midnight watch, that's not so good for team morale. But
so it looks like Little Miss and Drazzle are on the midnight watch. But then again, Drazzle doesn't seem to mind that sort of thing.
Little Miss.
Little Mrs. used to split shifts all the time. She used to be on a pirate ship.
Yep.
She's fine with that.
So certainly for the sake of convenience, yeah, if we make it, what do we say? So there's Crimson and Planet on first watch. Sorry.
So we have Crimson and Trellen on first watch, Little Miss and Razzle on second watch, and Trellen and Dimitri on third watch, with Plummin available for any watch, but sleeping through most of it because he's the one riding out front each day.
Yep, all good.
Okay, so first day into the Broken Lands. You don't encounter anything. Just basically getting the notes down so I actually keep the dates right. So you're up to the 24th of the 4th month. Because when I'm doing the multiple timelines, I have to keep them straight.
Yep.
So let me see. Just gotta grab a different coloured dice so I don't get them all confused. Okay, where did they end up? There they are, that will do. Okay. So I have a different dice for each of the watches to see if anything happens. That was why I was sort of asking roughly, so I can just do one roll for it all and see if any bad stuff happens. Okay, so first night, uneventful. And that was Yellow Orchia.
We're gonna go. We got one to go.
Hey, everyone counts.
That's right.
Okay, on the second day, you find yourself ending up in the swamplands of the monks.
Just confirming, Martin, as
Yep.
part of that whole day to the watches and things like that, yep, as part of the night routine, certainly Dimitri setting up a couple of alarm spells and that sort of protective stuff.
Interesting that they have a very nice shaped number 1 on that one. So something happens on Little Mrs. watch.
Yeah.
Okay. So give me a perception roll for Little Miss.
Yep, just give me one sec. A perception roll or a passive perception?
You're actively looking on your watch, I'm assuming.
Yep. Is Trellen also on
Yeah,
watch?
yeah, I am paying attention.
Oh, that's right, no, it's
Is that
Drazzle's
as
the other one on watch, isn't it? If we're talking midnight watch, it's Drazzle's the other one, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. So I've just got to actually check what my perception is. That is not a D20. That is a D12. That is probably not going to give me a good chance of...
You may reduce
well,
your perception
well.
capability.
That is another D12. Oh my god. Ah, there we go. That is perfect. Oh god. Okay. That's a 7.
Okay, so you're having a good conversation with Razzle about ships, ocean travel, all these really cool things that you'd like to do, but haven't had a chance to do. When you see him pull out a little box and put his finger to his mouth in the quiet sort of noise and trying to activate a device he doesn't seem to know how to use.
What's the device look like?
Looks like some sort of cube with runes on it, and he points off to the north and says, "Trolls nearby."
Okay, so I will, as quietly as I can, sort of go to the others and wake them, and sort of whisper to them, "Trolls."
Okay.
So in that case, it may depend on who you're going to first, because you're trying to effectively wake up quietly. It have to be one at a time. So if the trolls attack and Martin seems to have frozen again,
apparently I'm good at that.
Well, so you obviously you went to Martin first and said, "Don't move, stay still, quiet." Because if they're actually coming at us, then it might be a case of working out who's awake at various rounds, or who's woken beforehand and who gets woken by the sound of battle.
Okay, so who do you wake first?
Well, who's the closest to me?
Any of them can be equal distance at this stage.
Okay, so, I guess if that's the case, then roll a die, because I would go to the closest person rather than singling any one person out.
Okay, so there are 4 sleeping people at the moment. And apparently you wake Plowman first.
Oh, well, that's not a bad option
Absolutely.
when it comes to trolls.
And you see him, he happily picks up his glaive of Dimitri locating.
So
And
you always
I will continue on to wake up the next person.
Okay. So you are closer to... at this stage, I will say you're closest to Dimitri.
Yep, so sneak over to Dimitri and put my finger to his lips, which I assume is probably enough to stir him, knowing Dimitri.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'll give him a very gentle shake on the shoulder.
Yeah. Obviously, anyone trying to make Reiki quiet must be something that he'd be alert for.
It's always amusing when you note down that this is not normally the quiet group, but you're doing quite well at keeping it quiet. And Plowman, for once, hasn't mounted his horse and charged off into the distance. He culturally does know that trolls are not something you charge.
Yeah.
Okay. And as Dimitri wakes up, he sees Razzle throw something in his direction.
I will aim to catch it, assuming I'm alert enough to be catching it, or dodging it.
I'll make it an acrobatics check to see if you can catch it.
We'll assume catching is the first option. Total of 13.
Okay, you managed to catch a root-encrusted cube.
Okay.
And Razzle says, if you activate, if you can, will hide us.
Okay. I will. Do we have a fire going?
You do not have a fire going at this
That's right then. He's trying to pull his dark goggles on. And we'll fiddle with the device to see if you can work out what it is and how to activate it.
I'll give you an Arcana check.
Okay. 16 plus 26.
Okay, you recognize it as a cube that will produce a hallucinatory terrain.
Okay.
And you've seen such things used before.
Yep. It's not something that requires attunement to actually activate?
Attunement gives you more features, but it can be activated without it.
Yep, okay. I will attempt to activate it then. And do I have an idea of how much area it's going to cover?
It covers roughly about 150-foot cube, so enough to cover the campsite.
Yep, okay, so that'll be the campsite size for that, yep.
And you can basically
And
make
does,
it just...
does that cover the smell of smoke, or?
Well, you have no campfire because you were warned not to use campfire as well
Yeah.
here.
Smoke.
But yes, so that'll certainly not expect to keep Dimitri occupied for at least a couple of rounds while others get woken and or do other things.
Okay, as everyone wakes up, because next one would be Captain Crimson. And then Trellen, as the terrain comes down, making you all see a shadowy sort of field around you that looks like it's basically trees growing up where you guys are.
Yep. And certainly when Dimitri successfully activates it, he'll definitely try to indicate to the others, don't move. So, and yeah, for the purposes of the thing, if it is hallucinatory terrain, it does actually have visual, sound, and smell is all incorporated into the illusion.
Yep.
So,
And that's basically why you use such things to hide.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, but I say that physical terrain is not affected if the creature actually enter it. So.
Okay, so as you're watching, you do see a group of trolls go past about 50 feet to the south.
I'm back, guys, sorry.
And that they are about ranging between large and huge. Some of them with massive swords, longer than your horses are.
Mm-hmm.
Before Everest makes a decision due to ignorance, we have all been told to stay very quiet so that we can be covered by an illusion. So don't attack the trolls.
I was not aware there was a troll, but I'm not attacking anyone.
How many trolls was it approximately?
You see what you thought was only going to be a couple turn out to be close to 100 trolls going crossing the road.
Okay.
Okay, at this point the DM is trolling us.
And
I'm here all week.
from Dimitri's looking out for, is there evidence of things other than trolls?
They are talking in Giant, or Jotun as the case may be.
Okay. In particular, are there any other giants or any other monstrous humanoids amongst them?
You don't see anything at first, but when about 20 of them pass, you see that they have some orcs riding wargs amongst them.
And do the orcs appear to be in positions of command? Or are they just travelling with?
Appear to be travelling with, more, you think, helping guide them.
Okay. And, okay, Dimitri understands Jotun, or giant. Does he pick up
Of course he does.
what's actually being discussed?
They are talking about travelling to see the king.
Do they give any indication as to how long they expect the travel to take?
Couple of, probably about a week.
Right. And the orcs and the trolls are talking to each other in that discussion?
Mostly the trolls are talking to each other.
Mostly it's most trolls, yeah, okay.
And the orc is talking with the warg using Orcish.
Yeah. And they're talking about the same sort of topic of conversation, I'm guessing?
basically annoyed that they got to miss out on the raids to the south.
Okay. So the orc appears to be effectively talking to himself/org, and with the tone of conversation from the orc, does the orc feel like he's expecting the trolls to understand his conversation, or care whether the trolls can understand his conversation?
Well, considering the warg does respond to him in Orcish, you get the feeling that some of the trolls can understand, but the orc doesn't care.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because certainly then enhances the aspect of orc having some position of command over the trolls, and annoyed that, yes, he got sent on this pointless mission to go and bring the subjugated nations back to see the king, while the others got to do the fun stuff.
And you actually think it's basically a troll warband, which generally doesn't travel.
Yeah. But the most important part of the course also was that, yes, they managed to move past peacefully, and they don't notice our presence. Is that correct?
They don't notice your presence.
Marvelous.
Is there a way to recharge that magic item? Or
Well, certainly in the morning. Basically, so once the band's passed, Dimitri's thinking that the casting of the spell from the device effectively is a normal cast of hallucinatory terrain, is it?
It is a normal cast of hallucinatory terrain.
So it would normally last for 24 hours? Okay.
You think it lasts only while you concentrate, actually.
Okay, right. So, yeah, okay. So, yeah, in that case then, once they're passed, Dimitri will encourage them to say, yep, okay, probably all clear. He'll aim to stay awake for another while, like probably half an hour or something like that, if you can to maintain the concentration, just to keep the spell going for a bit longer before he will...
Can anyone concentrate on it?
They can, as long as they're the ones who activated it. It's like most spells, you can't generally pass the concentration aspect onto another player.
Right. But like a non-caster could use this item.
They could.
To make the spell, yeah.
Potentially, indeed. So, it's certainly something that, yes, the next day during travel, Dimitri will be aiming to have a good look at the device, and assuming that Basil doesn't demand it back immediately, he's going to take a good look at the device and just see, work out how good, like what the effect is, how long it can be used. In fact, he'll actually attune to it in the morning as part of that process of learning how effective it can be for that day.
Well, you do learn that normally it has 6 uses, but while you're attuned to it, you don't have to concentrate to maintain it.
Okay, and so the spell will last again then effectively for the normal 24-hour time period?
That was the difference between attunement and non-attunement.
Happy with that?
But it will run out of charges.
You notice that one of the sides is now blank.
Yeah, okay, so it had 6 charges. Do we know of any way of recharging it?
You do not.
Okay. Yep.
But it is a useful thing to have.
Oh, absolutely. That's right. So, and yes, it's very much the sort of thing that the Richard was asked about, whether or not we had any way of concealing the party as a whole.
It's okay, it took me a little while to look through and find what he had available.
Oh no, that's right. It will be the sort of thing that when having over the next day or two, Dimitri, we wanted to talk to Draxel and say, do you have other items back there that you don't really know how to use, or what's going on? I'd be happy to have a look through and work through them for you while we're travelling.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
What is the relationship between trolls and halflings? Like, if I went and had a chat to them, would it be a bad thing?
Halflings are delicious.
So from the trolls' perspective, it would be fantastic because they would be saying, look, they deliver. From the halflings' perspective, it would be short-lived.
Fair enough.
So
Yes,
the trolls are more than happy for you to show up.
Like this. The trolls' normal interaction with halflings is very similar to a lot of other races. The only difference being that halflings are more of an hors d'oeuvre.
Just that they'll be expecting more of you. Okay, so on your first night in Hobgobland, again, during Little Miss's watch, something happens.
Okay.
Is there a chance that I might wake up?
Well, firstly, they've got to do a perception roll to see how well they notice things.
Yeah, other people might have a chance to wake up if they don't see anything, but because I think also technically Dimitri's got, Plummer's got his weapon of warning type stuff, so if it comes to that.
So how much was that, Grace? 4? Okay. So, apparently you are so into the stories that are happening about other things that Captain Russell has done in his life that he again stops and points and says, Dimitri, you should wake.
So I'll go and wake Dimitri.
Okay, Dimitri's woken up. Again.
Yep.
2 nights in a row.
And I'll just point at Razzle.
I will confirm at this point that yes, noting any hexing to the device, Dimitri was not planning on using it on a regular basis at this stage, so it's certainly not up at the moment, but he did put up the alarm spell and things like that sort of stuff, so... I will... Dimitri will, again, get up and move quietly over towards Drazzle presumably Little Miss is going off and waking others, so we'll go over to Drazzle and... What is it this time?
Well, I'm not going to wake other people because at the moment I haven't heard or seen anything, and all I've had is Drazzle say to me, you need to go wake up Dimitri, so that's what I did.
Okay, that's right. From Dimitri's perspective, he's figuring, oh great, there's something else coming, so Little Miss is doing the runaround for key people, so he's going to go to Drazzle first of all and probably take a moment to realise, oh, hang on, Little Miss came with me.
He points to the south and says, Noel's moving.
Many?
Many. Following
Are
the
they
same
all
river
heading
we
to the
are.
same place?
They're all heading, following the river south.
To our fine or not?
Hard to tell because you're roughly about here. If you can see the little magnifying glass moving.
Yeah. Well, so from our perspective at the moment, we're not imagining actually heading... The trolls... We got the impression they were heading towards seeing the king, presumably somewhere else in the Broken Lands, not in Hellfire at that point, so...
Well, from your perspective, you believe the king is in Orcus Rex. So
Yeah.
all the way down the other end.
Yeah, but that was the fact that when we saw the trolls moving south on that one night, it was, hey, yeah, they're moving along, they're potentially moving to Orcus Rex, But there's just only at this moment in time that south is the most efficient path to get to the west, is that right?
It is the best, the quickest path, yes.
Yeah. So,
That's why everyone uses those roads, because the mountains are quite treacherous.
yes. Dimitri will aim to, will get the cube ready, but if the gnolls are already to the south of us, and they're moving south, he'll see if it's he might wait to see if there's actually evidence that we've been seen, because does that mean that they've actually gone past us?
Some have, yes. As the river itself is about a mile wide.
Okay. I guess, it comes down to, on the situation, whether or not to make the effort to think, hang on, is it likely that there's still enough that we're definitely going to be spotted, or that luck can't hold out, or if it's reasonable to think that, hang on, there's only a few left to go, so therefore we might get away with it. If he thinks it's more likely than not that we'll actually get spotted, then he'll activate a face.
Well, they don't seem to be spending a lot of time looking around. You think probably for the first time in their history, they're not afraid of their neighbours.
Mm-hmm. And again, obviously it's going to be hard for watching them this time, because they're presumably further away and we're more concerned about covering. But if the opportunity arises to hear any conversation and or see exactly who's in the band, then Dimitri will be interested to know that sort of information. So,
well, from about a mile away, you see. Do you have spyglass at all?
He does have a spyglass. However, I'm not certain that's going to be all that effective at night, because his dark vision only has 60-foot range.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Well, it is in nighttime conditions and starlight, close to the new moon, so no actual moonlight to help you with.
Yep.
So it's at the smallest size of the moon.
Yep.
And you can just see lots of blurry numbers moving at that distance.
Yep.
I've got a sharpshooter feat,
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering whether that might provide any benefit, because out to long range I don't take any penalties for ranged attacks.
Yep.
Okay. As I think a mile is roughly about 1,000 feet.
No,
It's well and truly beyond long.
That's right, no, because a mile is actually more like about 5,500 feet.
Yes.
So it's about 1,200 yards or something.
10 times longer range.
So,
okay, so you're pretty safe then, with a river about a mile wide.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they're on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yes. Dimitri will certainly not be planning on activating the face if the river is between us.
But there is lots of yelling and shouting and noises coming from the other side.
Does he recognise the languages that have been shouted?
They are yelling out in... hard to tell from that distance, you just hear noise.
Okay.
Give me a perception roll to see how well you understand noise.
Natural 20.
Natural 20. Apparently they are basically having a war chant.
Right.
Of course you just happen to know exactly what they're saying.
Well, I was going to say, depending on what language he is, you may not listen to it, but okay, I have a feeling it's a bit of a waste of the natural 20, but it's amusing. They're counting loudly.
Basically, it's they are yelling, we're off to see Thar.
We're off to see the wizard.
The magical wizard of Thar. I'm sure that is all in there.
So that's good to hear, because obviously travel's going to be easy along the Yellow Brick Road.
Okay. So the next day has you heading into High Gobliny. And I will have Trellen doing a perception roll while you're on the road.
Alright. So it's 7. 22.
22. Okay. As you're having a look around, you do notice that as you go up into the mountains, there are siege weapons pointing at the roadway that would allow them to take out, say, caravans or large moving groups.
Is there a way around these siege weapons?
Well, you're basically passing between them. You don't think you're a big enough threat for them to use them, and they don't seem to be manned at this time.
Okay.
But they are.
I'll move along the group and advise the rest of the party to stay hidden.
But you will be resting within bowshot of them. Range of them.
Yep. Although, hopefully you
Can we push on a bit?
Not without gaining a level of exhaustion. For every hour you push on.
Alright, no, that's a
But I mean,
that's a nightmare to get exhaustion.
Yeah, no, well, although if it can't, like, so you've been spotting these ballista and etc. throughout the day, or is it just one area of the an enclosed ambush valley type stuff that made it suitable?
When the road goes up into the mountains is where the ambushes are.
Yeah.
So it's basically high ground advantage.
Yeah, but it's okay. So these are multiple of them during the day. Did they appear to be all set up the same way as if they're a coordinated system, or are they more likely individual small bandit groups that say, "Yep, this is our turf, and we're going to take out any caravans that come through our turf"?
They actually look fairly new.
Right. And so they do continue for much of the time. It's not like we can travel an extra hour to get out of the range of that location.
You see,
right?
Yeah, you see multiples of them set up.
Yeah. Now, I would suggest that we spend a bit more time on attempting to conceal the camp on this evening.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know that it warrants the use of a hallucinatory terrain at this stage. So.
Okay. You seem to set up a nice looking camp. It's quiet. You're all having rations, assuming you've got rations.
Yep.
And water.
Yeah.
As you are away from the river now.
As I say, I'm sure we certainly talked all that up before we left the river if we thought it was likely an issue. But
and you find yourself having a relatively peaceful night, considering you've got siege weaponry nearby.
Well, hey, we're under protection.
Okay, the next morning has you travelling high up into the mountains, seeing the ice peaks spend the day on the slopes of the volcano near Akras.
Oh yes, okay. Now that I've zoomed in a bit on the map and realised the trail goes away from the river, I see what we're doing. I see why we've gone away from the river.
Okay. So, well,
do we know anything about the settlement of Akras?
you know, it is where the Goblin Princes came from.
Ah, yes, okay. Yep, that's right. So, but I'm assuming we don't actually get within sight of Akras as we're travelling.
You think you do, but considering you've never actually seen it, and it's hidden hidden in the mountain itself.
Yeah.
It's not an external keep; it's an inside the mountain keep.
That's right. Yep, that's cool.
Can I interrupt for a second? My daughter's come back from Scouts, and I think she's hurt her ankle. I may need to go and do some stuff. Do you mind if I bow out early? I'm sorry, guys.
All good. Bow out early.
Understandable.
We will. If you come back, we will catch you. If not, have a good night.
Yeah, I'll see where I might be able to jump back on like half an hour, 45. See how it goes.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So
Okay, bye.
Bye. So you find yourself on the edges of an active volcano. It's a nice warm night. And on third watch with Trellen and Dimitri, you can hear the sounds of activity on the river below.
Okay, so still quite some distance away, and Dimitri will take the opportunity to see if he can get a better view of what the activity might be. But
Okay, you can see on the river itself barges filled with trolls, gnolls, hobgoblins, and goblins moving along the river, heading south.
okay, and I'm assuming that's downriver.
Downriver, yes.
Yeah, it is downriver. Okay. And are they loading at that point, or are they come from the north and they're travelling south?
You think it came from the north and it's flowing south.
Okay. Now, just looking at the map, the line we've got the triple lines across the river, or the single line across the river. Is that like rapids area type stuff?
The 3 lines is rapids, yes.
Yeah.
So 3 lines means extreme rapids, whereas 1 line means light rapids.
Yeah, I agree with that. So it's not like they're just reloading at this point. They've actually loaded up beyond, like, presumably downstream of the rapids, a few miles further up the river, and they're just going along. But they're being noisy and going through. So, and each barge is loaded with multiple different races, or is it generally one race to a barge as much as possible?
You think it looks to be multiple different races. They have torches, so you can see them with your spyglass.
Yep.
And they seem to be celebrating while they're traveling with various goblins at the helm. And the boats seem to be made out of metal.
Are they recognised make of boats, like in the sense of they're orc-made boats, or Darokin-made boats, and they're requisitioned barges, or?
They don't resemble any boats you've encountered
seen before. Happy with that. I'm more happy that Dimitri's not necessarily the font of all knowledge on boats. This is the font of knowledge on everything. But
though he could ask Little Miss.
Well, are they river boats?
So with Little Miss having a look at
them, I don't think that it was Trellen and Dimitri was on watch, weren't they?
It was, yes. So you could wake up Little Miss and ask her.
As I said, Dimitri wouldn't be, based upon the fact that it's all happening on the river, at least a mile or two away. He wouldn't be planning on waking anyone else unless they were coming up. So, but he will talk to Little Miss about it in the morning. describing the boats as to whether or not she recognises what they might have been made as. So, but yes.
How common are riverboats around Arendi? Because it's all island and coastal, isn't it?
Arendi is island and coastal. It does have some inland rivers, not many. But you have been in Darokin and Galantrin and Karameikos, which do have riverboat trades. So you have seen the riverboats.
That is something I would pay attention to.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm able to glean a bit more info on?
From what it looks like, they seem to be stylized ship launches, but not in a style you're familiar with. Because they do appear to be larger than those that you're used to.
Okay, so giant-sized?
Big enough that you could have multiple trolls rowing, where you'd normally only be lucky to sit a single troll covering the width of the launches you're used to. So they are giant-sized in comparison.
Yeah, but
not necessarily built by giants.
giant-sized.
No.
Not necessarily.
Not built for giants. We hadn't seen any evidence of river traffic as we were following the river before, previous through the Broken Land, had we?
You had not, no.
And where exactly are we in the Broken Lands right now?
Okay, so on the map there where you see the two volcanoes next to each other across a river,
Yep.
you're the one on the left side of the river.
Okay, so we're coming in closer to like Red Auckland.
Yep, you're about to travel into Red Auckland.
Yeah, we're just leaving the plateau. Oh, sorry,
So technically, you'd cross Red Auckland into South Gnolistan as it's that side of the river.
Oh, because we're going north or sort of
You're going
east.
south.
We're going southish.
So it goes across the river,
sorry.
and once it crosses the river, it moves into South Gnolistan. But before the river, it crosses into Red Auckland, and then it travels down the river.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, it's a fact, yeah. There's a bit of a but yeah, but basically, yes, we've just left or just gone past the Cressy, and we're at the first volcano coming through, and we're about to cross the river. In which case, then, we'll certainly be taking a look before we actually approach the river, and if we've got the highland, the advantage of highland type stuff. Noting there were all the barges at that point during the evening.
There is actually a bridge across the river connecting the two volcanoes together before it actually before the river itself. So you're not actually going near the water. You're above the water, and you're following a ridge line that the river is a valley of.
Yeah.
And this river traffic, is it going under the bridge and further north, or is it just sort of all happening like further towards Red Auckland?
It all appears to be in Red Auckland going south.
Yeah, okay, so it's probably them trading with countries below them.
Well,
Or invading countries.
Invading.
Or presumably, this is where you've got to confirm, there's no apparent staging point near here. The staging point was further north, wasn't it? But presumably, the bands that we'd seen heading southwards when we were up going around South Gnolistan and things like that, the plateau, we saw those bands going south. Presumably, they went south far enough to get to the downriver of that first fast rapids, and then they've been loaded onto barges to then travel south along the river. Is that feasible?
And they were talking about, there were the other ones that you overheard that were talking about raids to the south as well, weren't there?
There were.
Although that was the orc saying he missed the opportunity for the raids.
Yes, but that's what I meant.
Yeah, that's right.
That he commented that there were raids to the south happening.
Yeah.
So this is probably those raids.
Or they're the trolls and gnolls being taken southwards to get to see the Great King. So, and rather than walking all the way, the orcs have arranged river traffic for them to speed their progress. So, but okay, if we don't have to actually go near the river and we can travel across some sort of bridge high above the river.
That's my recommendation. Is we don't really want to try and swim across the river with a carriage anyway. We'd rather use a bridge if there's one available.
So, but if this bridge is high across the river, does it appear to be used or monitored?
So yeah, how visible are people that use the bridge to the river traffic?
The bridge itself is high enough up that most people in the river wouldn't see it.
Okay.
So we're pretty safe using it then.
Yep.
And it's not a new bridge. It's a very old bridge. It predates a lot of the lands itself because it connects the two volcanoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that does bring up the two questions then of does the bridge appear to be manned or guarded or monitored?
Nope.
And also, probably the first point of that was, is the river traffic still going on during the day?
As you start traveling during the day and travel, I'll give you a perception roll to see if you notice.
Is that just for Dimitri?
Anyone can do so.
I'm certainly happy that Ken wasn't here. Dimitri got 19.
16.
Okay, so
You guys are far more vigilant than me.
so while you're looking, you do see that probably about 200 feet below the bridge over the river, that the you can't actually see where the river comes in, where the volcanoes are, because most of that's underwater, so underground.
Right.
There are no traffic north of the volcanoes that you can see, but there's lots of traffic to the south.
Okay, right. So seemingly, the boarding point is actually underground between the volcanoes. Is that the implication? Right.
That's where you think they're all boarding. And you managed to get all the way down to the mountain edge of South Nolistan.
Without significant further incident.
Because most of the traffic is on the river.
Okay, and the river is still quite distant below, or deep in the valley that we're travelling above, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Happy with that. So,
and let's see if anything happens particularly overnight. Apparently it happens on Trellen's first watch.
And is it just me?
well, you got plummeting support. So.
Give me the perception roll. Jeremy can roll for plumbing.
Okay.
21.
I got 12 for plumbing, and I think his perception's probably around the 8 to 10 figure, so he'd be around the 20 mark.
Okay, both of you can see that there are empty barges being moved over the rapids to the south of you.
Yep.
And being set up not far from the rapids.
Okay, yeah, so basically they go overland around the rapids, but then they get back on the river again.
No, they're not putting them back on the river. They're having them beached on Red Auckland side of the rapids.
Oh, okay, they're getting off there.
Well, it could definitely be a good staging ground if they were to then follow the river south.
Yeah. So
I'll keep a diary of all these little movements.
And it's far enough away from the forces of Darokin that they wouldn't see it.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
do we have a reason to care whether Darokin's being invaded?
That is where your
Does
sponsor
this
is
seem
based.
tied into the different happenings, or does this just seem to be a coincidental and not particularly important piece of trivia?
I'd
Well,
say 100
Like as
trolls.
far as the world went through.
It's certainly going to be part, like the idea that the broken lands have become united under one ruler is certainly something that Red Doom would be interested to know about, as well as the Darokin government. From a personal perspective, like from the party's idea, Darokin is technically the home base of the Legion investigation processes. So certainly the idea of the Broken Lands launching a full-scale invasion of Darokin is not good from a world politics perspective, and less than ideal from individual party perspectives.
So even if we save the world, this is still going to be shit that we care about.
Yeah. Well,
it's our home.
Well, it's not everyone's home city, although they say it's the
home
party
city of the
base.
organisation.
Yeah, the base of operations. Certainly, if the world was saved and it was just a case of the gnolls and trolls and orcs and everything of the Broken Lands have got together and they're going to go on a rampage starting with Darokin, that would be something that Heroes of the Land might try and help stop, but it wouldn't necessarily be worlding in itself. So.
Yeah. No, my question was more, is this specifically tied up with the quests that we need to do? Or is this like additional to that's stuff that we want to know about, but is also currently like that's a file away to deal with once the world is saved, sort of thing.
Well, it's something you want to remember in case you come this way again, because this sort of stuff will trip you up and cause you problems.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things that, yes, it's the whole global events where the Ethagarians have come under one Khan, the Broken Lands come under one Khan, the Exurian clans are likely to come under one clan, is all indicative of, hey, big events happening in the world. As I don't think it's directly related to anyone's specific individual prophecy.
Yeah, so it's not
except for that it is potentially an idea of a conglomeration of monstrous humanoids. The Beholder might, there could be a symbolic representation there. So it could be, and certainly they are likely to attack Alfheim as much as Darokin. So it could be specific to this current one.
Can you show me the map that shows where Alfheim and Darokin are in relation to each other?
Okay.
Canalbar first is Alfheim.
So the red area circled is where you guys started. And
Yeah,
you
that's
started between the Ethingar and the Khanate. Broken Lands is this area off to the south, off to the side.
Yeah.
Alfheim is this area inside Darokin here, and I will bring that more to a note there. As you can see, Darokin with Alfheim circled inside it.
Oh, so Alfheim is kind of like what Rome is to Italy, is it?
Yep, it is completely inside the bounds of Darokin.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
If you go back to the map we were originally looking at that was showing our travel, you can see the northern tip of Alfheim, the Canalbar Forest, is part of Alfheim. So it's certainly close to the staging area in that kind of way. So that's just it. Like a conglomeration of monsters humanoids might potentially be what the Beholder was representative of.
So Fort Nell is one of the few things keeping the region of Alfheim safe, but Darokin doesn't protect the other areas to the north of Alfheim, as they are controlled by other humanoid tribes as well. Because there are a couple of keeps here that are not all completely humanoid based. Sakag, Dast, and Zorg are all orc and hobgoblin, as well as Gruk.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is very much contested Wilderlands.
Yeah.
which is why they actually having weapon emplacements mounted on a caravan trail is disturbing in its own right.
Yeah.
Just say, speculating on the possibility that this army might be what was represented by the Beholder. Does Dimitri think that's actually like a likely scenario? He's speculating it's certainly possible, but I'm just thinking that it's one that he would consider to be the most likely based upon what he's known and worked out.
Well, it is quite possible because from a certain point of view, many eyes could represent many different races working together.
Yeah.
Under a central guidance, which would be the Great Eye of the Beholder.
Big Eye, yeah. Because yes, I'm just tossing up at the moment of is it worth us, rather than continuing directly onto Karong Lane and then into Darokin, etc., potentially trying to do a bit more scouting of this combined forces, so that we can affect it directly if we need to stop the Beholder killing the Unicorn, if indeed this was represented the Beholder, or even just provide greater intelligence to the Darokinese about the potential attack force. That's just the party question rather than command.
Sorry, so can you just say that again because you cut out a sec?
So, I'll go to the bathroom while you tell them again.
Okay. Dimitri's just asking the idea, okay, yes. Noting this could be representative of the Beholder, or this could be what the force the Beholder was representative. We've got a couple options here, rather than continuing straight on to Darokin and then on to Elfheim. We could, in fact, try to reconnoitre this army, and possibly, if we have the opportunity, possibly try and interrupt it in the same way we interrupted the Alphatian fleet, and that may actually prevent the Trellen's vision directly, or at the very least, it might mitigate this force and reduce its effect upon the rest of Darokin, assuming that's where it's going to hit next, and or Alpha.
Because it's not really something we want to happen, whether it's directly related to the vision or not.
No.
So it's, I mean, obviously there's a risk, like if it's not related to the vision and we get caught up too long in this because we get imprisoned or we get killed off, that kind of ends the world. So there's that risk to consider. Given that Drazel's done this a lot of times, how does Drazel feel about the suggestion of doing some guerrilla warfare and some sneaky sabotage along the way to Alfheim?
Drazel does not mind, except he does point out that it took him 1,000 goes to figure out how to do one thing right. So he's not a great expert in the terms of what is the best way to do stuff.
Come on.
But he has lived through these events a number of times. So
the events he lived through were all in the royal palace of Alphatia for the same month 1,000 times.
Yeah, so he hasn't lived in this time until now. All his previous recursions were back in what, 1002 or something.
It was more like 1006. So about 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah. So he hasn't actually lived in these times until now. So.
But he said that he had.
No, he said that he'd been affected by the ritual, I said, many, many times, 1,000 times or more, but there was actually a focus in a particular area, and like I say, he finally managed to break out of it.
When you were talking to him in Effingar, he said like he was writing and recording history, and he'd been recording this stuff before, and he'd been through this situation before.
Yes, he had been through the situation the last time he had been through a recursion.
So
not this recursion, just he'd been through a recursion.
Yeah.
So he was speaking generically, not specifically.
But also, considering the way that Drazel often speaks, it's probably perfectly reasonable to assume when you first spoke to him, or when you first spoke to him, the understanding that he meant current events, but in fact, no, he was talking in general terms. So,
yeah.
And plus, the more you get to know him, the more you realise he talks in past, present, and future tense interchangeably all the time.
That's right, yes. So it's easy to think that he's already done the current and even future events, but probably he hasn't, or maybe he has, but yes.
And with the same thing, he uses male and female interchangeably without any identification on either. Go ahead.
Look, it seems that until, like, I've been gone long enough that any kind of shore leave I had as well and truly run out, and I'm guessing I'm sitting as a missing in action person at this point, so I may as well throw my lot in with, you Redrian's red right hand, so to speak. So, plus we've got this whole world saving thing to do. So I'm all for trying to cause some chaos and interrupt these guys. Particularly if it means that, like, they're going to attack, whichever of the two places they attack, we don't want them attacking either, so why not?
Yeah. And to be fair, it shouldn't be that difficult necessarily to, any alliances that have been formed between the various monstrous races must still be fairly tender at the present time, and hopefully it may not be hard to affect them, particularly if we can remove this king, would be the obvious way of doing it. So I'm suggesting at least an initial point.
So from Jeremy's perspective, the talk about the King started taking control back in 1005.
Yeah.
So has been many years in process.
The king
the king of the Broken Lands.
Yeah, the Broken Lands. Yeah, I thought so.
So he has taken 4 years to get to this point.
So yeah, that's right. So if he could be eliminated, then the alliance would likely fall apart, and they'd return to their previous ways. But yeah, so Dimitri's suggesting that. So we're currently basically at the last of the big mountains that where you've got the desert at the moment, yeah. And we can see that they're offloading barges and potentially setting up staging area and things like that just to the south and west of us at the present time.
Yeah. On the other side of the river.
On the other side of the river, yep.
Of the rapids.
On the other side, okay, yeah.
So that would be, at that point, it would probably be maybe 400 or 500 feet across for the river.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so Dimitri would be keen to not necessarily to spend a day maybe to at least examine and try and get an idea of numbers and things like that and races. And then also that evening, he was planning on waiting another few days till we got to Darokin potentially, but he's going to actually try and contact Yen again to get his advice or information on the likelihood of or interpretation of Beholder versus Unicorn, as to whether or not a bunch of humanoids gathered together, potentially to attack Elfheim via Darokin, is a more likely interpretation based upon current events. And then, as I say, if nothing else, if we decide that no, it's definitely not going to be related to the current mission, any additional intelligence we can provide to the Karunglain and also the Darokin forces would be advantageous, even if we decide not to try and take out the king.
Yeah, I reckon.
Okay, so I'll give each of you a advantage on perception rolls and investigation roll, your choice, as you pay attention to what's happening on the river over the day.
And 1. I'll take the 19. 26.
Whilst Dimitri's better at perception than he is at investigation, I'll specifically take an investigation roll on the idea that that's going to provide some different information, probably the perception. So 19, so he got 25 on investigation.
Okay, so having a good look around, Little Miss is enjoying a good look at the boats in the light.
Pretty.
As because you get to see that they are indeed designed for rivers being shallow bottomed, and they are also designed to be broken down if needed to. So it's not a usual design for boats, but this is...
These are the sort of boats that they want to be able to move from river to river.
Or from underground to above ground, or from location to a location. You think that technically the trolls could pack the boats up and carry them across a mountain range quite easily.
Yeah.
And also along this river system with lots of rapids areas. That's really very useful.
Yeah.
And while the boats are big, they are designed to be broken down, which is fantastic.
So can I tell with looking at that how they're then making them watertight when they assemble them?
They're not caring about watertight.
They got staff that can bucket.
So they're actively just continuing to basically take water out quicker than it comes in.
And occasionally they pull it out of the water and empty the water out and go back. It's not R&D style of workmanship where it's watertight and perfect. It's the it will last style of craftsmanship that makes your teeth shudder at the thought of having to actually use.
This is hasty makeshift for an invasion thing, not let's set up permanent trade routes.
And it's the sort of stuff that you'd imagine that they would use to ram emplacements and not care what happens.
Yeah, and not care what. Yeah, it's all expendable.
Yeah. And basically, if it got trashed before it was used, it would not be hard to replace either. You'd think it would probably take them maybe a month or two to replace it if you wiped out all the vessels they have there.
What are the vessels made of?
Metal.
Metal?
Yep. More iron you've seen in one location beyond the R&D ironworks itself.
If they're not watertight and they're made of metal, there's no way they're floating.
You're not sure exactly what they're doing with it. They do also have magic involved.
And technically...
Can I do an arcane check to see what sort of stuff's going on there with magic?
Yep.
Technically a very leaky boat can still float.
Nat 20.
Nat 20. Okay, so you do, while you're observing and thinking about it, you do see a shaman on each of the boats. And the
Right.
shaman.
Oh, also, yeah. So there's 25 all up because I found there's 5, but yeah. So there's a shaman on every boat.
Yep.
And how many boats are we looking at?
You're looking at probably about 50 here. And the shamans are from all different races. They're not just here are the goblin shamans. Here are shamans that are hobgoblins, gnolls, and various other
But they
ones.
all are being subjugated by the orcs that we can see from the way they're interacting.
They seem to be deferring, but not beaten down. It's not what you would expect.
So willingly working with them.
Willingly working.
Interesting. That's not good. I'm going to relay this to the rest of the party.
And so from their perspective, they're watching. They're actually seeing during the day various hobgoblins, kobolds, and goblins playing some sort of sport. Is reminiscent of what you guys saw in the Hollow World with the Azkans and some of their sports.
Yep.
To be honest, you'd have a hard time telling apart both groups, except for the fact that these are not humans.
And yeah, okay, so we can get an indication of the sorts of numbers and that are currently involved and the rate of increase or things like that.
You see that over the day that there's about 500 odd around the boats, and you see over the course of the day probably about 5,000 come through this space and pass on to the west.
On to the west.
Yep. So where the mountain starts on the other side of the river is where they head to.
Is that what you're saying?
Alpheim's to the east.
They head through Dakota's grave.
Throw towards this direction, and they disappear in the mountains.
Okay.
But you do know that this place is riddled with various underground settlements.
Yeah.
But it's unlikely for them to be actually heading west unless they know they're under our observation. And
well, no, like in the sense that assuming they're not actually planning on their invasion in the next week or two, it's just the idea that they've come down river and this is effectively a spot where they're offloading from the river, but it also makes a good staging area when they do decide to invade. It's potentially a thing. So, but for the time being, there's other staging areas or living transport areas under the mountains. Because there may still be, as you said in the...
they may go down and then come back up in a different spot.
That's right. But and it could be, as we heard from the trolls on the first night, that in fact a lot of these hundreds of thousands of humanoids are actually on their way to see the king, who, well, might be in the vicinity of Dakota's Grove, but I believe we expect that he's still further west beyond the range of the map on the screen at the moment.
You expect
if they're planning for invasion, though, he might not be where he's normally based. He could be anywhere.
Yeah. So, but like I said, it's also the fact that any invasion that's being planned, again, it would be quite coincidental if after spending the last 4 or 5 years subjugating or at least gaining control of the entire Broken Lands that we happened to walk through in the week prior to their invasion. So, not to say good things expect to happen, particularly when you're in the middle of a time loop and going through the whole time multiple times, but so it is possible that at this stage, hey, they're gathering to see the king, and then they're going to go out on a warpath band.
Do we think that maybe the king has actually somehow done this via getting swearing of fealty from the other races?
Quite
He's certainly
possibly.
got something along those lines.
That's what a lot of rulers do. Nobility generally does it.
Yeah, I
by
know.
fealty.
Orcs are not exactly like other rulers.
I mean, that's just it. Certainly, yeah. From what we understand of the humanoids, normally they don't really work together very well. They have historically, and that's what led to the Broken Lands originally, was the fact that you had a huge band of various humanoids that had managed to come under one ruler. But then, whatever happened, they split apart around the Broken Lands and divided off again. So the aspect of them gathered together, whether they've gathered together because this one influential orc has been able to talk around all the others, or whether he's got some sort of magical power, it'd be a bit hard to know at this stage, but certainly seemingly from an individual troll or gnoll or goblin or whatever they might be, we'd probably hear from them saying, yep, King Thargood is good. So he's a worthy leader following. So,
And if he's treating all the races fairly, that would be unprecedented amongst most of them. Though there's also rumour that there is a city where the races are equal in the Broken Lands as well. But that's more of a rumour than a fact.
yeah. Obviously, you can't really do it. What's going to my head? Okay, so from what we're seeing while we spend the day waiting, things like that, we're not seeing evidence of an army about to march, but if there is, they're actually preparing potentially underground.
Yep.
So I guess from our perspective, it comes we've got the option here of, okay, do we try and follow these war bands to get more details where they're going, or are we going to continue south towards Coring Lane and into the although that evening, as I said, Dimitri will attempt to contact Yam and just see if he's got.
It'd be nice to have a bit of a sign of whether this is the beholder, in quotes.
Yeah, that's right. So Dimitri will attempt to contact Yam and to see what his thoughts are on the likelihood of this being the beholder.
Okay, let's see if I can bring up details to make it easier, so I can actually remember what he would say to you.
Yep.
Okay, so Yem does say that he does not believe the humanoids of the Broken Lands to be the beholder of your vision. And unless, of course, you provoke them.
Yeah, that's certainly issue, but so well, I'd say after the consultation took pieces, Dimitri will basically either that evening around the camp or in the morning. He'll talk to the party and say, yep, on consideration, I suspect that this is not directly out of our vision. That doesn't necessarily mean we haven't got time to get more detailed information if you wanted to. But of course, the risk probably outweighs the reward at this time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
People are happy at that then, that we're going to continue
I think yes, we continue
towards
just
Kurungla?
to check. Coranglain is a Knightsbridge city, is that right?
it is that.
That's
That
right.
is correct.
Thanks.
So, you spend the next night in the coal lands to the south of the southeast of the Streel River.
Yep. And obviously during the day we're continuing to monitor any activity if we can, but presumably it's a lot quieter once we get past that staging point.
Once you get past the staging point, you don't see or hear anyone.
Yep.
But it means that we could go to Coranglain, flick over to Darokin, let them know that there might be something on the way, and then flick over to Alfheim. And can we do that in the space of an hour?
You can.
Probably more like a day or two, I would think, because by the time you've actually managed to meet up with the people that you need to pass on the information to, and they arrange the ritual at Kurunglain to open the gate to Darokin, and then the gate from Darokin to Alfheim. I suspect it'll still take at least a couple of days.
Gregory would be able to get doors open.
Okay.
Like, is he like a respected in Darokin?
He's respected as one of their council members.
Okay, there you go. That gets us. That opens a couple of doors.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard to do, but I'm just thinking that it's not going to be an hour between Kurunglan and Alfheim. I would think you're going to be looking at least a day or two total.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we can make it as fast as we can. Is there a reason you're concerned about?
I'm just anxious, given that we've got a bit of an idea that this doesn't represent the beholder.
Yep.
So the urgency is back on.
Okay. Okay. Dimitri will try and explain the fact that, well, I can understand your anxiety and your urgency, but do consider that the previous mission, when we had to stop the Alphatians, at the equivalent time where we are now compared to on that mission, we've barely got on the airship yet. Let alone spent the month traveling.
We don't know what the problem is, or who the beholder is, or what it represents, or what the unicorn is, or what it represents. So at this point, like, we don't know how much time we're going to need when we get there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not suggesting for a moment we want to waste time.
It is definitely one of those risks versus reward things here.
So, for Jeremy, for your perspective, when you entered the Broken Lands was around the same time you got on the airship.
Okay, yeah. So that's right. So it effectively took us about 2 months or so total to actually get to Alfheim before we did anything, The middle things happened quickly when we got to Alphatia last time. But yeah.
So it was about a month from when you actually got out of the after the ritual to when probably 5 weeks was the time you had in that time loop.
Oh, okay. Because I thought it was at least a month or so of actually travelling on the boat, and it
was 1 month on the boat, 1 week to
and
the
a week
boat,
or so to get there. Okay, yep.
And a day falling.
Yep.
And you're 2 weeks into this time loop.
Yep. So, but our understanding at the start of the ritual was that we potentially had around the 6 months for each mission, was it not?
You expect it to be less than a year.
Yeah. So I get, yeah, actually, from Dimitri's perspective, yes, we don't want to waste time, but in the same way that he wouldn't have said it was worth pushing for an hour every day and being tired while you're travelling, I don't see that it's necessarily going to cost us too much if it takes a day or two in Darokin and Karameikos and things like that. So,
because you do realise you will need to push and gain a level of exhaustion to reach Karameikos by the end of the day.
The current day.
End of the day you spend the night in Kroll Lands. The following day, unless you want to spend the night on the border, you would have to push to reach Karameikos.
So what exactly are you suggesting, Dimitri?
He's just like just because Trellen was saying, hang on, I think we can get there in an hour after we get to Karameikos. Dimitri's just saying, maybe, but it's not going to kill us if it takes us even a day instead of an hour. So.
Hang on, who was saying this?
Dimitri.
I was saying
to Trellen.
So,
to Trellen. Yeah, but hang on. I got lost though. Why you guys started having that conversation?
Just that. How long do you want to spend? Once you get to Karameikos and you've got a Knight's Bridge in, then you can jump around as much as you like. So why not go quick?
Yeah, well, but also just remembering the fact that the assuming that Redring's not actually at Karameikos and more likely to be in Darokin, the keeper of the inn, it takes a little while to set the ritual up and things like that if they weren't expecting us to arrive and things. So, but yeah, it's more that Trellen was becoming more anxious about the time. Dimitri was trying to encourage him and say, hey, look, we're not necessarily as pushed for time as you might currently feel. But I'm happy to understand that this is Dimitri having much less interest in this particular mission than Trellen does. So,
well, but you've also just said yourself, Dimitri, that any risk trying to do anything about the situation that we've been observing and strategizing over is far out, like that the risk far outweighs any reward for it.
Oh, absolutely.
So if that's the case, then let's just keep moving then.
Yeah, and that's the point. Exactly. We're going to keep moving, and certainly, yes, if it was a case of we can spend an extra couple of hours travelling to avoid another night close to the border of the Broken Lands versus getting into Karameikos, Dimitri's all for making town, pushing through a few extra hours to make town overnight.
So aren't we all on the same page then?
Effectively, yes.
So let's do that.
Yep.
Okay. So on the 4th of the 5th month, you finally reach Karameikos after pushing your horses and managed to make it to the Knight's Rivet Inn and get rooms for the night because their portals won't work until morning.
Certainly, Dimitri was certainly not planning on trying to move further that night.
But as long as we get the command, say, can you start preparing the rituals, we're going to go and have a nap. Or trance, whatever.
Yep.
So,
but yes, certainly Dimitri's intent would be before we leave Karameikos, would be to try and contact the local garrison commander and give him the intelligence and stuff like that we've collected on the way.
Okay. So you do
whether that be that first night, but that seems unlikely because you're dead tired, or the next morning would be the more logical.
So in the morning, while they're spending an hour preparing the ritual, you track down the commander of the city.
We don't have anyone in the party that's particularly renowned and known in Darokin, do we? Dimitri's obviously renowned everywhere, so not concerned, but we've got these ones that are particularly associated.
Willie Toskoppel was renowned in Darokin.
But that was in a
well,
halfling, wasn't
it? As a halfling, but not an elf.
Yeah, Willie Toscobble was, not to Ellen.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, going in there, of the group of you, you'd probably think that either Dimitri or Little Miss would be the most respected, being as it is a nation run mostly by humans, whereas Trellen would be respected for being one of the neighboring kingdoms' members. Because Alphatian and Darokin have a known history that Trellen remembers when he was Willie, that it is an allied nation.
Yeah. Well, certainly going in there, Dimitri would expect that obviously his word is respected everywhere. So he's happy to aim to get a audience with the guard commander or whether
Yeah, from a purely out of play reason as well, I just need to go to the bathroom, so I might get Dimitri to do the talking anyway, just so that I can listen to you guys and don't have to be on the microphone.
That's fine. So, Dimitri gets to make a diplomacy roll with advantage and add 2 to it based on your reputation for Darokin.
Okay. Diplomacy. Diplomacy is not actually a 5th ed one. We're talking
Persuasion.
Persuasion. Yep. Okay. And yep. Dimitri's in his typical persuasive self. You said +2.
Yep.
So total of 12. You got an 11 and a 3. He got -1 on persuasion. So.
Not bad. So you rock up there, start talking to them. That they seem a little put out by your accent, your mannerisms, your over-explaining and lack of actual information. And eventually they let you in to see the captain of the City Watch before they'll let you see anyone else. He greets you warmly and says, "So, are you here with information to the north? You're the first group to make it through this year."
Yes, we've
considering it's 2 months from when people were due. It's quite late in the season.
Yep. Dimitri will. So yes, we've actually just passed through from. We started our travels in Ethengar, and we've travelled down through the broken land, past along the camping trail or the caravan trail.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way, we saw evidence that the broken lands had been we've forged an alliance and we're working together apparently under the orcs. We saw evidence of hundreds and thousands of humanoids of various races: trolls, gnolls, goblins, orcs, all having travelled down the Streel River and potentially to a staging point just southeast of whatever that place was, but slightly off the map right now, and so I can't see the name anymore. The bit further up, basically just south of the small rapids to the east of Nakota's grave. So, but then they were traveling. They were heading apparently west into the depths of the mountains on that in Red Orclaim there. So,
he says the path through Trollhattan seems to be particularly fraught with humanoids and unpassable. So he thinks that's why you managed to make it through, because you didn't come via Glantry.
Mm-hmm. We heard discussions amongst the humanoids that said they were looking to see the new king or pay homage to the king. So possibly they were continuing to head further west towards where the king might be on the western side of Trollhättan. However, they also appear to be gathering an army that would be a very sizable force if it decided to head further south. And obviously, be aware, you're the first stumbling block.
He says it'd be rather unfortunate because they've had to marshal a big chunk of their forces to try to protect the west of Darokin, with the nomads marshalling on that side of the river. That side of the lake. So he believes it's been rumored that the master of the desert nomads is coming for Darokin.
Well, lucky you. You might get to Darokin might be lucky enough to be getting attacks from both sides. Won't that be fun?
Yes, well, it is considered the wealthiest region as well as the most fertile region in all the areas around it.
So what do your current force? What do you represent current commander forces at the present time?
Our forces have been stripped to 1/10 of their normal standing. So
which gives you
we have about maybe a militia of 200 to 300 instead of a couple of thousand.
Well, as I said, the numbers of monstrous humanoids that we saw, you may want to try and call in or call back some of your forces, or trying to inform your command that the information has come through, or at the very least, you might want to try and send scouts up to try and keep a closer watch on what's happening.
We do have some scouts on the trail through Trollhättan, but we haven't got any on the one to Ethinger.
Unfortunately, my companions and I are unable to provide such services any further at this stage, but we are going to be travelling to Darokin, and we shall aim to pass on the same intelligence down there, and wish you good luck.
Well, hopefully we can get some forces up here, because Karaglain is the weakest it's been since it was leveled.
So, and as I said, Dimitri will be having given him effective numbers of the fact that, we saw at least one warband of 100 trolls, another warband of a few hundred gnolls, and that was before we saw them starting to gather.
Yeah. It is quite scary from that perspective.
So, but yeah, basically, yeah. So Dimitri will pass on all that information that he can, descriptions of the boats and systems and things that they've been using to travel, and
he says they do sound like the orcish boats that and goblin boats that seem to, for some reason, work well on lava. You would expect them to melt, but they've got some magic trick to them that keep them afloat.
I have seen such vessels in the past, yes. So,
Am I in the room for this?
You are, yes.
You were coming in?
Yeah, so I'll just say, I think the magic trick is the shamans they have on board, so if you've got some way to take them out, that might help the cause.
So possibly, but not easy. Getting close enough to
not
shoot
easy.
them is very
Get
hard.
some sharpshooters.
If only we had a contingent of elven archers, that would be fantastic.
I might see if I can do.
Okay. So you end up spending a couple of hours going through with him the various things you saw as he gets details.
Yep.
And then he goes off to start writing requests for troops.
Yep.
He's not too sure he can actually get troops because it is quite... they do have an imminent invasion.
Okay, like if he can have, if he wishes, and he's happy to accept Arthur's transportation, and Dimitri will, as part of that process, show his Mountain Storm badge and representation of his commission within the Karameikos army. That yes, if you have any missives that you want passed through to the Darokin command, we expect to be there within the next couple of hours.
Well, he says if you got magic like that at your disposal, he'll write up quite a few if you can give him an hour.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Dimitri's happy to do that, waiting on that sense, because it gives more time to actually recover from the push last night.
Okay. So about an hour later, he rocks up to the Knight's Root Inn with a packet of letters.
Mm-hmm.
And wishes you good luck.
Did he state exactly who would be the best contact to deliver this to directly?
There is a name on the outside for as well as on each of them. So you.
Cool.
He thought
obviously we've got some connections, but it's useful to know what he's expecting to be connected to. So good.
He says good luck, and he hopes he's still here when you come back through this way.
Likewise. Dimitri's thinking probably unlikely because hey, well, it could be very easy to attack depending upon whether we come back through next time. We might come back through before we arrive.
Yes, with timey-wimey version things.
That's right.
Okay, so with that, I will end the night on you stepping through the portal to Darokin City.
Marvelous.
No worries.
Yes. So it occurs to me that as we're going through this process, and possibly after we start to get through at least a few more of the missions, there might be some advantages to not necessarily succeeding everything immediately. If it gives us another opportunity to go back and try again, we might get time to come back and try and take out the King of the Broken Lands before we complete everything. You can add a mission.
It's always possible.
Oh, right, and diverge.
Yeah. But I think that's certainly a long-term potential plan after we find out how we're going and how that rift is actually looking when we come back the next time.
Each iteration will give you more information.
Indeed.
So,
and we'll have better understanding exactly how it works and what we're coming back to. And
yeah, if we're losing a day, then hopefully that means we don't run into each other.
It could be less
ourselves.
Unless, of course, you decide to take horses going south again and forget that you spent an extra day observing.
Although, I suspect that we won't normally try and go south through the Broken Lands if we can avoid it. Although, admittedly, getting to Kurung Lane is probably a good option most of the time because it's going to be the most convenient night with it in a lot of the time. So, but that's right. We can just arrange next time if we come down through here, we can do our scouting point at a slightly different timing and therefore give even more information to Commander what's his name of Kurung Lane the next time through, because we can give him all the stuff we learned last time, plus anything new, even though we didn't get it this time around.
To a degree, depending on when we do it, like we'd have to make sure it's later in the timeline because, we were warned that we have to be careful about how we interact with with people when we're interacting
Absolutely,
multiple
yeah.
times. So
Yeah.
it probably, for consistency's sake, have to happen in the timeline after this has happened.
But you were one specifically that you past use can't see future use.
Yeah.
But they say, but exactly how much interaction that they say. So, on that specific stipulation, yes, we could provide Kurunglang Commander again much more information the second time round if we're careful not to meet ourselves. But yes, certainly. It's also something I'm thinking, whether it's worth Dimitri actually opening the letters and finding out what he says first up, and therefore, okay, next time report, here's some letters prepared, add this. But he might think about that for another time. So.
That is all good. Well,
anyway, thank you very much, all.
I hope everyone has a good night and rest up well, and we will see you again for D&D in a fortnight and see what happens when you reach Alfheim and the city of Darokin.
Yep.
So 16 days into the trip so far, and you're not doing too badly.
Okay.
Excellent.
All good.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Have a good evening, have a good week, or see you next week or the week after.
We'll see you
Good
guys
night,
later.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Trellen